Camille Ashworth found the crackers first, 3 of them, slightly crushed, tucked into the pocket of a jacket she was about to put through the wash. Then, the following week, half a sandwich wrapped carefully in a paper towel and hidden in the same pocket. It took her almost a month of small, mysteriously vanishing snacks before she finally sat her 3-year-old down and asked, directly, what exactly was going on. This isn't a story with any danger in it, no crisis to worry about, just a small habit that turned out to mean a great deal more than a mother expected when she started asking questions about missing crackers. Let's get into it. Camille was 39, the CEO and co-founder of Larkspur Logistics, a retail supply chain company that operated 4 regional distribution centers across the Midwest, employing just over 2,000 people in roles ranging from warehouse floor staff to corporate operations. She lived outside Milwaukee with her husband and their daughter, Piper, and employed a housekeeper, Denise Okafor, 3 days a week to manage a household that Camille's own demanding schedule rarely left her time to keep up with herself. Denise had worked for the Ashworth family for just over a year, arriving each of her scheduled days a little after Piper's morning nap, and leaving in time to make it to her second job, an evening shift at a nearby distribution warehouse.
Yes, I can confirm your coverage.
Unrelated to Camille's company.
Wait, what do you mean it was canceled yesterday?
Her son, Miguel, 6 years old, came along on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school let out. The gap between his dismissal and Denise's shift start too narrow for any other arrangement to reliably work. And Camille, without much deliberation, had simply told Denise the first time it came up that of course he was welcome, and never revisited the subject. Piper and Miguel had built, over the better part of a year, the particular easy friendship that sometimes forms between children who don't share an age, but do share enough unsupervised afternoons together. Miguel patient with a 3-year-old, in the specific, gentle way older siblings, and only children who wish they had siblings both tend to be. Camille noticed the crackers the way she noticed most things about her household, which is to say, in the corner of an otherwise very full attention, doing laundry between conference calls on a Sunday evening and finding a small, deliberate stash tucked into a jacket pocket that made no sense on its own. It happened again the following week, and the week after that. Different snacks each time, always carefully hidden, always missing from Piper's own plate at some point during the preceding days. She finally asked on a Thursday evening, sitting on the floor of Piper's room, while her daughter methodically transferred a small handful of fruit snacks from her palm into the pocket of a cardigan, hanging within easy reach. "Piper," Camille said gently, "what are you doing with those?" Piper looked up, entirely unbothered by being caught in the middle of what was clearly a well-established routine. "For Miguel," she said, "for when he goes home." "Why does Miguel need snacks for when he goes home, sweetheart?" Piper considered the question with the particular seriousness 3-year-olds bring to things that seem, to them, perfectly obvious. "Because he's still hungry after dinner," she said. "He told me. He said sometimes there's not enough, and I have lots, so I share."
Just tell me what they want.
I want to
We can
sit
still
with that
fix
answer
this,
for
but
a
you have to be
second,
honest with me.
because I think it's worth noticing how plainly Piper delivered it. No drama in her voice at all, just the simple, generous logic of a small child who had noticed a friend needed something and had quietly decided, entirely on her own, to do something about it. Camille didn't say anything else to Piper that
How are you
evening
holding
beyond
up,
a
Denise?
soft, "That's a very
I'll be
kind
okay,
thing to
Thomas.
do,"
Thank
and
you
a
for
promise
being
to
here.
think about how to help. What she did instead, over the following few days, was something careful and deliberate rather than immediate. She didn't confront Denise. She didn't ask Miguel directly, unwilling to put a 6-year-old in the position of explaining his family's finances to his mother's employer. She waited for an ordinary moment, a quiet Tuesday afternoon, when Denise was folding towels in the laundry room, and asked, gently, whether she could ask her something a little personal. "Of course," Denise said, though something in her posture suggested she'd already half guessed, from Camille's tone, that this wasn't going to be an ordinary question. "Piper's been sneaking snacks to Miguel," Camille said. She told me it's because he's still hungry after dinner sometimes.
That's the last one.
I wanted to ask you directly,
I can't believe we're finally here.
rather than guess,
I know, it feels amazing.
whether that's something
Let's go
going
check out the
on,
view.
and whether there's anything I can actually do to help. Denise set the towel down slowly. I want to be honest about what happened in her face in that moment, because I think it matters to the rest of the story. There was a flash of something that looked, for just a second, like embarrassment, quickly folded back beneath a composure
This isn't working,
Camille
James. We both
recognized
know
as
it.
considerable effort
I was afraid you'd say
rather
that.
than natural ease. I don't need charity, Mrs. Ashworth, Denise said, careful and a little stiff. I work 2 jobs. I budget everything down to the dollar. We're
Dispatch,
managing.
this is Unit
I believe
252.
you,
We are
Camille
1096
said.
at 1400
I'm not
Elm
offering
Street. 2
charity.
subjects approaching,
I'm asking a
advised.
genuine question because my daughter noticed something I didn't, and I'd rather understand it properly than pretend I didn't hear it. Denise was quiet
We
for
need
a
access
long
now, sir.
moment.
I'm opening
It's
it, officers.
tight,
They are
she
apartment
admitted
4B.
eventually.
Thank you.
Rent alone takes almost all of one paycheck. Between the 2 jobs, I make enough to cover the basics most months. But by the last week, things get thin. Miguel doesn't go hungry. Not really. Not in any way that would worry a doctor. But dinner some nights is smaller than I'd like it to be. And I know he notices, even
Look,
when he doesn't say much
we need to
about
finalize
it.
this now.
Here's the thing I want you to notice about how Denise told
can't
this.
wait any longer.
Because I think it's the whole heart of this particular story. She wasn't ashamed of working hard. She was proud of it, in fact, and rightly so. 2 jobs, a carefully managed budget, a son who was clearly loved and looked after in every way that mattered, beyond the strict math of grocery money. What she was navigating wasn't a failure of effort or planning. It was a gap between what her labor was worth and what it was actually paying her. A gap that no amount of careful budgeting on her end could fully close, because the problem didn't originate with her. I don't want to tell you Camille's next move was simply to raise Denise's pay and consider the problem solved, because that's not actually what happened, and I think the distinction matters. She did formalize Denise's household employment terms properly that same week, converting an informal arrangement into a clear contract with paid time off, guaranteed hours, and a wage recalculated against the actual cost of living in their area, rather than whatever rate had been casually agreed upon a year earlier, without much research behind it. But Camille, to her credit, didn't stop there, and didn't treat that single adjustment as the meaningful part of the story. What actually kept her up that week, she said later, wasn't Denise's specific situation so much as the question it raised about her own company. Larkspur Logistics employed just over 2,000 people, a significant number of them in warehouse and fulfillment roles, paid at rates Camille had, if she was honest with herself, never personally scrutinized against the actual cost of living in the communities where those warehouses operated.
Yes, I
she
can
asked
confirm
her
your coverage.
CFO to run the numbers that week.
Wait, what do you mean it was
A
canceled
request
yesterday?
that turned into a 6-week
The judge
internal
signed the
audit
order this morning,
comparing
Miss Harmon.
Larkspur's wage
It's finally
structure
over.
across all 4 distribution centers against a calculated local living wage for each region. The results were not, Camille said afterward, entirely surprising once she made herself actually look, though they were uncomfortable in a way she hadn't fully braced for. Nearly a third of Larkspur's warehouse staff were being paid below the calculated living wage for their specific region, a gap that had crept in gradually over years of modest, cost-of-living adjacent raises that had simply failed to keep pace with the actual rising cost of rent, groceries, and childcare in those same communities. I think it's worth being clear about how Camille framed what came next, both to her board and to her own employees, because the language mattered enormously to how the change actually landed. She did not describe it as generosity. She described it, plainly and repeatedly, as a correction. The company paying, going forward, what the work being done had always actually been worth, rather than what a series of incremental adjustments had allowed it to drift down to over time. The wage restructuring rolled out over the following 2 quarters, raising base pay across all 4 distribution centers to meet or exceed the calculated living wage for each specific region, alongside an expanded benefits package that included, among other changes, a childcare stipend for employees with dependent children under 12, a detail Camille has said, more than once. She added specifically, because of a conversation that started with a bag of stolen crackers. The changes were not, in the immediate term, free of cost or complication. Larkspur's margins tightened noticeably that year, a fact Camille discussed openly with her board, and, eventually, in an interview with a regional business publication that picked up the story once word of the wage audit spread.
Just tell me what they want.
Two other regional logistics companies
but you have
reached
to be
out to her
honest with me.
directly in the months that followed, asking how she'd structured the audit and whether it might be worth running something similar themselves. Conversations that were, as far as Camille knows, still ongoing a year later, without any guaranteed outcome, but without her stopping the conversation either. Denise still works for the Ashworth family,
How are you holding up,
now
Denise?
under considerably clearer
I'll be
and
okay,
fairer
Thomas.
terms.
Thank you
And
for
Miguel
being here.
still comes along most Tuesdays and Thursdays, still finds his way,
This
more
isn't
often
working,
than not,
James. We both
to whatever
know it.
room Piper happens to
I
be
was afraid
playing
you'd
in.
say that.
The snacks still occasionally make their way into pockets, an old habit neither child has fully abandoned, though Camille says the dinners at Denise's own table have gotten a little more comfortable
Dispatch,
since.
this is Unit 252.
Something
We are
Denise mentioned
1096
once,
at 1400
briefly,
Elm Street.
without
Two
much
subjects
fanfare.
approaching. Advised.
The way people mention good news, they've decided not to make a bigger production of than it needs to be. If there's something worth taking from this one, it's that the people working
We need
hardest
access now,
around
sir.
us
I'm opening
are
it,
so
officers.
often
They are
navigating
apartment
gaps
4B.
that have
Thank
nothing
you.
to do with their own effort or planning, and that noticing those gaps, really noticing them, sometimes takes someone small enough and honest enough to simply say the true thing out loud, uncomplicated by all the reasons adults usually find to look past it. Let me know in the comments what part of this one
Look,
stayed with you most.
we need to finalize
I
this
always
now.
like hearing which detail actually lands.
I can't wait
If you're
any
new
longer.
here, subscribe. We've got a story like this every week. And if there's a wage gap or a quiet hardship sitting somewhere near you that a closer look might actually reveal, maybe this is worth that closer look. I'll see you in the next one.